Hi folks, I'm in Jebson Gardens in the small town of rural Leamington Spa, which is in the West Midlands of England, near Coventry and the much larger city of Birmingham if you're looking at this video from outside the UK. And I'm here for two reasons. One, to review a pair of M2000 Czech Army boots, but also this area during the Second World War was associated with the Free Czech Army, men who had escaped the occupation and via France come to England, and in particular 7 men who were trained by the British Special Operations Executive, SOE, to parachute back into the area, into Czechoslovakia, to assassinate the SS general who was put in charge of that area by Hitler, and that was Reinhard Heydrich. There are quite a number of films about that mission, particularly recently there was in 2016 Operation Anthropoid, and in 2017 The Man with the Iron Heart, which was the name given by Hitler to Heydrich, which shows the sort of character he must have been. So we'll take a review of the boots and then we'll have a closer look at the memorial. So just briefly, we can see there's a tiny little garden here, and that's dedicated to the village of, if I get this pronunciation correct, Ledici, that was pretty well wiped out by the SS troops after the assassination of Heydrich as a reprisal, together with many other civilians. So we'll come back and have a look again at that memorial. So, Model 2000 Czech Army boots. Quite a smart looking boot again, quite soft leather, seem to be well constructed. They're manufactured by a very respected manufacturer in the Czech Republic called Prabos, and I think we'll see them, there's their tag, and also these were made in 2011, and they have also the cross swords, which is the official Czech Army acceptance mark. They have a speed lace system, which we'll look at. I'm just here getting out the insole, and in the bottom of the boot there's a special plastic grid in case you get the boots wet inside, and it would help keep your feet drier. It's quite a smart idea. It's quite soft leather, pull tab on there, which is a good idea on high leg boots. There we can see the outsole, a good aggressive tread pattern with the name of the manufacturer and the size. Before these model boots there was an M90 boot, and before that an M60 boot, which had a unique Czech tread pattern, but they've changed it for the Model 2000. There we can see the speed lace system. These don't have any Gore-Tex lining, they are lined and with cushion. Since the 2011 they've now got a newer model with the Gore-Tex lining and a Vibram outsole. That's the latest model boots for the Czech Army. They are well stitched, seem to be well constructed, treble stitched. One thing I need to look at more carefully is the midsole cushion, because it is exposed, and on the M2000 Bundeswehr boots they had a problem with that, where the cushioning was exposed to the elements and wear, and it could cause the outsole to separate. We'll see how these perform, and the Germans upgraded that on the 2005 and 2007 boot and covered it to stop that problem, but we'll see. My plan will be, as I've mentioned on a previous video, to undertake, say, 500-kilometre test and see how they perform. I'm not really using these yet. I only use them to walk from my car to these gardens about 1 kilometre. They seem quite comfortable, but obviously it's too early to say. And there's the lining and the maker's mark again. But I think looking at them, they're going to be quite a good performing boot. They cost me £27.99, £28, and I'll provide a link to the supplier, because I think they're quite an unusual boot to be found in the UK. There's only one supplier I've seen offering these, and they also offer the M60 boot as well, so a really old boot. Similar in some respects to other boots of the period, like the Dutch M90 or the Swiss KS90 boot from that sort of era. You can see the lining there. All in all, I think they should perform quite well. So we're talking about Operation Anthropoid and the memorial. The plan was that 7 men would parachute in. They took some weeks to design the plan of how to assassinate Heinrich, and they came up with the idea that they would get him on his travels from where he lived in a castle to the centre of Prague, and they chose a particular bend in the road where they knew his car would have to slow down. He normally travelled just with his driver and without an escort. And the members of the team gathered there, and one of them, and I think his name is pronounced Kabjik, I hope I've got that correctly, Kabjik, had a Mark II Sten gun under his coat, and at the appropriate time he stepped out to fire at the car, but the Sten gun jammed. And the early Sten guns were notorious for doing that, not being that reliable. I think they improved that later in the war, because this was May 1942. But the second member of the team, Kubis, was armed with a British modified anti-tank grenade in case he needed to take care of any of the escort. So he threw that, and that exploded outside the car, severely, well, actually fatally wounding Heinrich. And there we can see the memorial. It looks, I think it's designed to look like an open parachute, basically. And although he wasn't killed outright, the combination of the shrapnel from the bomb and the interior of the car, wood and hair that they used to put in cars in those days, caused infections. And he had, I think, a ruptured spleen and a collapsed lung. So he had some severe injuries anyway from the blast, and he died a few days later from the infection, because they didn't have, at the time, access to the antibiotics that we would have even today. So there's a memorial to the 7 men. They all died later in a shootout in the church in Prague. They were betrayed, and they're surrounded by hundreds of SS troops, and they either all died in the shootout or some of them committed suicide rather than be captured and interrogated by the Gestapo, which we all know what that would have meant. So nice little memorial to those men, and there were lots of reprisals by the SS against the civilian population. Some estimates of 5,000 people losing their lives. So it was very successful, but it came at a very high price, including wiping out that village mentioned there. So take care out there, folks. Take care.